All right, good afternoon. Welcome back as we continue our Guild Wars 2 personal story playthrough. We have completed Season 3, and that is good news. We are ready to launch into Path of Fire, so I'm going to do that immediately without any delay. And then we'll talk more. We'll kind of do our Path of Fire retrospect kind of overview as we play through it, because I don't want to just stand here forever. So let's get rolling. As soon as we finished season 3, it started us out here on Pathfire, but I've not opened the letter. So opening this letter will then launch us into Pathfire. Let's do that. Commander, the conflict in the Crystal Desert is bleeding over into central Tyria, with refugees pouring into Lion's Arch every day. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Why would refugees be pouring into Lion's Arch? So we were trying to track Balthazar, right? This renegade human god. And we learned, we tracked him to a area of ore where, for some inexplicable reason, he decided to drop off one of the aspects of Lazarus. Um, and then we use the Eye of Janthier to try and, gain some sort of supernatural insight into where Balthazar was headed, and we learned he was headed to the Crystal Desert. So what this letter is meant to represent, we're going to start seeing this once we get to the Crystal Desert. Balthazar is there because with Jormag and Primordus having been put to sleep by the machine, he is still looking for more power, and he wants to absorb that from Kralkatork. Thus, he went to the Crystal Desert. This brings him into conflict with both the residents of the Crystal Desert and other forces, as we will learn later in time. We don't necessarily know that yet, but we do know that he has gone to the Crystal Desert, gone there in force, and that's what's causing refugees to pour into Lion's Arch. Okay. Queen Jenna has already dispatched a diplomatic team from Divinity's Reach. You and I have some common interests in play. I'd like to discuss them in private. I think we can help each other. Meet me in my office. This is Captain Ellen Keel, right? So who is she? She took over as like the leader of the Captain's Council because Lion's Arch, right? Kind of the central hub for core Guild Wars 2 activity is a city that was founded by pirates. And during the events of Living World Season 1, the acting senior member, or the acting leader of the Captain's Council, was killed, and Ellen Keel has taken that role. So she's like the de facto mayor of Lion's Arch here, and she wants to discuss the whole refugee thing. Oh, look, refugees. So with the Launchpad Fire, like there were some small permanent changes to this little spot in Lion's Arch, including I think they actually added this. I think that was previously like inaccessible. Um, so we got the refugees here and whatnot. Let's talk to Ellen Keel and find out what we got going on in Lion's Arch.
Oh, good. You made it.
Happy
Indeed.
to lend a hand to fight the blaze.
I think I speak for all of the Captain's Council when I say we're beyond grateful to have a group of folks like you on our side. We can ship out once the rest of Dragon's Watch gets here.
Uh, it'll just be me.
Oh, one person. Against a god of war. I'm sure it'll be fine.
Taimi and I faced Balthazar before, but he slipped through our fingers. It won't happen again.
Taimi, she the short one? I hear she has quite the superiority complex. Funny to have a teeny tiny body with such a massive ego, huh? What is it? Why do you have that look on your face?
I'm sure the commander's silently trying to warn you that the little narcissist might be listening.
Oh.
It's technology, a remote communicator.
It's
Yep,
technology.
right, the commander. Although, the Crystal Desert is farther away than we've ever tested this thing. I might not be able to stay in constant contact with you.
What a disappointment.
Huh, look at that. You broke Scruffy's sarcasm meters. Anyway, I'll get to work on solving that problem so we'll never be apart again. Bye!
That's...
Pretty typical.
Well, a battalion of my best is ready to go. Talk to First Mate Fidus and he'll get you situated. I'm lending you my personal airship to get to M. Noon. Keep it in one piece. Heard you don't have the best track record with them.
No promises.
Might be smarter to get it insured. Best of luck, Commander. It's a powder keg over there, and that maniac has already lit the fuse.
So, in fairness, the commander doesn't have the best track record with anything. So,
now let's talk shipping details.
yeah, get to work, Keel's assistant. Keel's assistant looks mysteriously like... So, now we know what's her face? Exemplar Karita. Oh, man. What was her name? Oh, well, anyway, now we know she did. Okay, let's talk to a few of the folks here. And as you can see in our little introduction here, fair warning. Livia, that was her name. There's Livia. She's now Keel's assistant. That's not any sort of actual lore, by the way. They use the same haircut. The writing style and the kind of the narrative flavor, as we can already see, is not going to change that much from Season 3 into Path of Fire. Path of Fire is much better crafted than Season 3, but we're still a ways away from them taking themselves more seriously, as evidenced by literally every aspect of that conversation. Ogden, what are you doing here?
Mr. Stonehealer, thank you for the Priory's contribution. I feel I should warn you.
That you can't guarantee the safety of my scholars and explorers. Don't worry, our people can handle themselves. Just remember to share any important discoveries you make. Alona's been isolated for a long time. There must be a treasure trove of data about the Forgotten, Ascension, and the Dragons, just waiting to be discovered. I'm also eager to see how their societies have diverged from ours, and if Dwarven culture had any lasting impacts.
I'll support your people as best I can, but I've got a mission of my own. Good luck, Ogden. Until we meet again.
As far as I know, Ogden never gets any of the answers that he's like, is this a bouncer? You're the bouncer? Who am I to judge? Might be one tough little sir. As far as I know, he doesn't get any answers. It just... I'm not proposing that like somehow they've allowed something to kind of die that they should have followed up on. You know, it's not a loose end. It's just FYI, he'll never get any of that information.
Commander, on behalf of the Captain's Council, thanks for pitching in to support our relief efforts.
Though you and Keel are the only counselors I see, this operation is a bit unusual for Lion's Arch, isn't it?
Don't worry, Keel and I will handle the full council. Now get out there and kick Balthazar's divine teeth in. Consider
it done. The next time we speak, we'll have one less mad god to contend with.
Yes, because the commander is really something. And as Keel pointed out, the commander is essentially entering this alone, right? Because we don't have Bram and Rox. Because Bram is being salty, and perhaps rightfully so. Following the unmasking of Balthazar, we discovered that Lazarus was actually Balthazar because the real Lazarus was made up of 5 parts, which were maybe 6 parts, and were separated all over, and Balthazar did or did not have one. That cost us Casimir and Marjorie. And then we got Timey, who has like her own stuff going on, so we're not going to have her initially, but we have her on comms. Because everyone knows, how great that communicator thing is. Not at all anachronous.
Swordmaster Farron, Lord of Beetleton, is ready. Let Chaos Bringers and Quaggan Kickers alike beware.
Thanks, but I need you here. Someone tough and shrewd has to guard the supplies until they're loaded.
Good thinking. This is Lion's Arch. These donations could go missing in transit before they ever leave the docks.
Not with you on the case. Thanks. I'll feel a lot better with someone I can count on to keep an eye on things.
Happy to contribute. Bon voyage, old chum.
Farron, my friend, never call someone who's about to cross the ocean chum.
Whoops, I should know better. Especially after that fiasco with Marula at the apiary. I kept calling her honey. She still blames me for all those bee stings. Who knew the buzzy little beggars had such good hearing?
every aspect of that is bizarre. So we continue to talk down to Farron. He continues to be ridiculous. So everything's pretty much status quo there. I do like that he's dual wielding infinite light. At launch, it was my opinion. Some folks may not agree that was one of the best sword skins available. And in fact, I still think it's a fantastic sword skin. However, harpies wield those swords, and as a result, people tend to not like it just by association with harpies.
Sheriff, just wanted to say how glad I am Keel brought you in. This job requires skill and know-how like yours.
I know even more than Keel thinks. She and Magnus aren't working with the full council. That's why they called me in. Either they're sick of debating, or it's a power grab, or they just plain don't trust the council to do the right thing. That's why I love this town. Even our leaders live by the rule, it's easier to get forgiveness than permission.
You may be right, but even if they are being tricky, the desert region needs help, and Balthazar has to be stopped.
Oh, I support the cause, but I'm not taking the heat when the council finds out. Good hunting, Commander.
Okay, so if we talk to everybody in this little instance, we got some background here. We got a pretty good idea of where we're at as we enter the desert. So also just a real quick side note that really doesn't have anything to do with the story. It has more to do with me limping through the story. I've switched from Soul Beast to Untamed, hoping that my gameplay isn't quite as garbage. I'm not very experienced on Untamed, whereas I was relatively experienced on Soul Beast, but it was a while back. So we'll see how it goes. I also added, thus the hammer. That's why our commanders run around here with a hammer. It's one of my favorite hammer skins. I think it's absolutely fantastic. Also added a couple of ascended items to this character, trying to just slightly bring up her DPS. So whether or not it'll make me squishier, it'll make me do more damage. We'll see if that works in my favor or not. Let's head to the desert, and on our way, we can kind of talk about Path of Fire, right? So Path of Fire was the second expansion, Heart of Thorns being the first. Heart of Thorns, in hindsight, I think was a spectacular success in so many ways, but wasn't necessarily like super well received. Whereas by the time Path of Fire rolled out, people had really come to appreciate what Heart of Thorns was, and thus they were excited for another expansion. So whereas I think Heart of Thorns is by far the better expansion, mounts notwithstanding, Path of Fire was received significantly better on its launch than Heart of Thorns was. That is my perspective based on my memories of the events, at least. First Mate Fidus. What's up, buddy?
The Phoenix Dawn is set to sail.
Ooh.
Glad you could join us, Commander.
Thanks. How's the crew?
Ship's prepped, aid supplies are in the hull, and we've got a Lion Guard squad for security. Hop aboard and we'll shove off.
But the crew, you can speak freely.
Well, some people, not me, are a little anxious. There are mixed feelings about fighting a god. But we have our orders. If you listen to the refugees' stories, it's pretty obvious whatever Balthazar's doing over there is a catastrophe.
He was determined to take a dragon's power. I'd guess he's turned his attention to Kralkatorrik.
And apparently doesn't care whose neck he has to step on to get the job done. When you stop to think about it, this is a god who turned against us. It's hard to swallow.
I suppose we'll just have to stop him from killing it and get ourselves some answers.
Oh, don't even get me started on sparing the dragons.
Believe me, I'm still coming to terms with it too. Hopefully Timey can prove it, and soon.
Then I'll hold my tongue on that and let you focus on Balthazar and his forged.
Let me guess.
It's what the refugees call his army. Tough customers by the sound of it.
An army. Wonder where that came from.
Only one place you'll find an answer. A diplomatic team is already on the ground in Amnoon. I'd start with them.
Will do. You sure you're ready to follow me into the fire?
It's where we do our best work.
Good. Off to the furnace, then.
So all these references to like fire and burning and furnace and into the blaze and the maelstrom inferno, all this nonsense, is very much setting up, or rather playing off the whole Path of Fire thing. and the fact that Balthazar is a god of fire, and so on and so forth. Okay, so we're going to just kind of put up with that because we're not going to escape it. So Fidus is going to be kind of our guy as far as how we're going to get there, because this is how we're going to get there, right? Via airship. Now, one of the things that they don't necessarily address real well with Pathfire or later with End of Dragons is an area that is completely, up until now was completely inaccessible. That being all this down here. This is the playable area for Pathfire at launch, right? To include like that right there is a guild hall. This is not. That should be, or yeah, it is. Yep, that's all part of Abbey. Okay. Why it was inaccessible, I guess is irrelevant because it doesn't seem that far from Mount Maelstrom to Desert Highlands over here. And now apparently we can just float an airship over there. We'll run into the same question much later when we get to Cantha here and like how it's been isolated for over 100 years or whatever. And then conveniently, as soon as we need to get there, then people start getting there. But it's just they have to. It's very appealing in the story to have a place that you like is mysterious and no one's ever been before and all that. But then, when you need to go there, you need to go there somehow. So, it is what it is. This is going to be our mechanism for going there. So, onto the airship. So while we get our little cutscene here, a couple more things on Pathfire. Like I said, it was very well received at launch. I think it was right to be well received. While I'm not super keen on it as an expansion in retrospect and compared to other expansions, the mounts thing generated so much excitement and was executed so fantastically well. Like, I would love to have really serious conversations sometime with somebody about whether or not mounts were actually a good idea, whether they were good for the game. Probably ultimately they were, in terms of marketing the game, making it accessible to new players, etc. But they generated a ton of excitement for this expansion, and they were done exceptionally well. The studio did very good at them. So that's one thing that, while I think ultimately this expansion was weaker than Heart of Thorns, it promised that and it delivered it, and that worked tremendously in favor of this expansion.
Look like we made it to Amnoon.
Sorry for the change of plans, but we saw smoke coming from that pyramid. Keel gave us orders, so we're going in.
Okay, well then, let's go in. So I do love to jump off of here and glide down to the pyramid there and stuff. It's great fun, but we'll go ahead, just in case there's dialogue, we'll ride the airship all the way in here. So speaking of the mounts, just so we're clear, as we enter Pathfire playthrough, we already have a good chunk of them here, and their masteries are already quite far along. It's because of the...
Stay on board. We'll get you to Amnoon as soon as we get back.
Heck no, I'm going with you.
I didn't come this far to sightsee. I'm going with you.
All right, let's go. What is this right here? View? Oh.
That structure is enormous.
Oop.
Our navigational charts didn't say nothing about gigantic pyramids. Didn't think our info was so out of date.
It's been hard for cartographers to keep up. This entire region has been in lockdown since Palawa Joko took over.
Yeah, so we'll get to Joko more later. I'm not gonna worry too much about him right now. We'll have ample time to talk about him. Yes, so 0 to 0. As a result of my 0 to 0 series,
Sink at any moment.
well, we don't want that.
That came from inside.
Well, we should go. So we're way far on the mounts. Now, the mounts, obtaining several of them was kind of baked into the story, but we're not gonna miss story necessarily by not doing those things. It'll kind of be transparent, and the story will just simply continue to progress. So, not a big deal. Not too worried about it. All is good. We're going to charge forward. And yes, these are the
That
forged.
introduction until after we're done.
If there are any left, Commander?
Fidus, man, very excitable. So all these poor people getting victimized. This is our first introduction to obviously like our primary adversaries throughout this expansion. Now there will be, as is generally the case, and probably this is rooted in like some sort of storytelling 101 type thing. We almost always have a primary adversary and a secondary adversary. These will be our primary adversary. It'll be a while before we meet the secondary one.
He has chosen to forgive you for your interference with the fire and ice dragons. Join him and fell the crystal dragon. He only wants to free Tyria from their grasp.
Your god lies, and waging war on these people won't help you defeat the dragon.
Wrong choice.
Alright, now we got to deal with the Herald of Balthazar. So this is, I don't want to say like a second in command type thing. It's more like, an honorary thing, right? Who is the Herald? The Herald is one who, like, I don't have a dictionary in front of me. One who announces the coming of, right? So that's the role of this this character. And because ArenaNet really, as I've mentioned over the course of Season 3, by this point in time, in terms of the story, is developing something of a fetish for relying on the first game for their storytelling in the second game. This will turn out to be a character from the first game, although if you're not familiar with the first game, it's kind of like transparent to you. It's not really something that you need to know or that you'll miss in some way. In that sense, it's a little more subtle than a lot of the other stuff that either has already happened or will happen. Some of the most egregious are yet to come and are more part of Season 4 than they are Pathfinder. Season 4 was their high point. If Season 3 is their high point for like comic book hijinks in terms of storytelling, Season 4 will be their high point in terms of making Guild Wars 2 Guild Wars 1.2.
Feel the fear, Vitus. Hold position here and help these people. I'm going after her.
But that's exactly what you want.
I know. I'll be fine. Be ready for any other survivors I send your way.
Aye, Commander.
So we are going to see a very different feel in Path of Fire versus Heart of Thorns in terms of the environment. And we can already see it. This is vast. Mounts make a big difference, right? So if you compare the size of the maps, right? Like, these maps are pretty big, slightly larger. If you look at like Malcor's Leap here versus Crystal Oasis, Malcor's Leap is smaller. The Crystal Oasis is like 150% of Malcor's Leap there. The maps are larger, the spaces are bigger, the things are bigger. It's almost like they just took all the assets and made them 120%, 130%, something like that. Very possibly what they did, in fact. Everything has to be bigger because mounts cover the ground
To the pyramid for safety.
so much faster.
We have forces standing by to protect you.
I was once like you, full of noble intentions.
But it's also significant that they wanted a different feel.
Are you just a puppet? You have the choice.
No, the choice was made for
They wanted a different feel in Path of Fire versus Heart of Thorns. Whereas Heart of Thorns was deliberately claustrophobic, and everything was like all up around you, and the jungle felt like it was constantly right on top of you. They wanted Path of Fire to feel big and open, like a desert. And as someone who's grown up in the desert, that's a feeling I love about the desert. I don't necessarily love Path of Fire, but it's good in that sense. It does, in fact, give the feeling of a wide open space. So they did very much succeed in that, and as we start getting into Crystal Desert some more, once we're through our little introductory instance here, then you'll very much see how that feeling is very real. such weird emphasis on the word friends. Like, usually when you put emphasis on something like that, it's almost like you're suggesting that they're not really friends, or, that they're... But really, it's just, these other forged creatures are going to, take over whatever, and we're going to fight them. So it's a weird use of the emphasis there. Man, what are you doing way over here? Jammed up my whole mojo.
Pounded into dust. Breathe it in. Give my regards to your master.
Outlander, over here.
So this is where, if we were just playing this for the very first time, so Path of Fire launch day, this would be our first opportunity. And look how early are we in. We're like, early are we in? How early in we are. We're like 30 minutes into Path of Fire. And that's with us taking all the time we put. It's not even that. It's like 20 minutes in. And that's with us taking all that time to talk to people after we talk to Keel and all that. And this is going to be our first chance to play around with the raptors. So that's pretty awesome.
They're gone? Oh, thank you. I need to get through that gate.
Okay, I'll just... Oh, if it's down, she must have smashed it on her way through.
I can gather whoever's left to get the gate open, but you have to help us. The town's burning out of control.
Of course, but maybe you should hang back.
Yes, please.
Yeah, Exeme's here is looking rough.
Your leg doesn't look good.
I can't just sit here.
It's okay, we'll handle this. You're helping by helping me.
Fine. Just please don't let the entire village burn to the ground. Help the survivors. The raptors will get you to anyone who's out of reach.
Got it. And you?
I'm fine. I'll stay with my brother.
Okay. Shout if you need anything.
Shout
Commander,
if you need
I got
anything.
something
Good
that
thinking,
might help
Commander.
with those fires.
What you got, Fidus?
Here, take this.
You carry a fire extinguisher with you?
Well, Keel said we should bring insurance for the voyage.
Okay. Alright, thanks, Fidus. And a big salute. So this is actually a rifle skin, if I'm not mistaken. Not a rifle I wield on any of my characters. I don't know, it's kind of a weird looking skin for me. But I'm like 99% sure that that is a rifle skin. So there we go. We cleared out this fire. This is where we could then grab the raptor. Now, we're not going to do that because it's not necessary for us right now. But that is how that would have played out. Now, playing it through the second time, we already got a raptor along with various other mounts. So we don't even have to worry about it. We'll just charge ahead and continue basically to complete the heart. I'm not a huge fan of mandatory complete the heart as part of a story playthrough, and of course that's what I was really annoyed with, on the last chapter of Season 3, for example, One Path Ends, where we had to go through and complete every heart on the entire map as part of the story. I like the inclusion of hearts in Corteria. I kind of don't like them anywhere else. One, because everything post Corteria, the hearts are rather overtuned in my opinion, to where they become kind of a more significant labor than they need to be. I don't like that. And they just don't, in my opinion, contribute to the feel of what is taking place nearly as much as they do in Corteria.
Cormyr has answered our prayers. Bless you.
You're welcome. Now, of course, hearts were part of their core design philosophy, but as the game has changed, once you finished developing the core game, that hasn't necessarily been true. So, in fact, these days, well, yep, good thing I'm here, I guess, buddy. These days, what they really represent, big ol' speed bumps, intentional, to slow your progress through maps or stories. It forced the player to pace a little bit. That's very much what they represent. The second thing they represent is merchants that you have to go through some effort to unlock access to, and then get things that that you need for collections or for fashion wars or whatever it is. For example, right now on my main account, I'm working through the Elite Specialization Ascended Weapons from End of Dragons. One of the things that I didn't do right after End of Dragons, so I'm kind of catching up on that now. There's a whole bunch of things I didn't do in End of Dragons and Icebreed Saga that I'm catching up on these days. So, of course, for each of the Elite Specialization weapons, I have to, buy an item with karma from, from a vendor somewhere. And as far as I know, they're all heart vendors. That's the role that hearts play these days in Guild Wars 2. So, if with the new mini expansions, there are a whole bunch of things I would love to see as they transition towards that. I don't think we're going to see nearly as many of the good things I'd like to see. I think we're going to see some of the negative things I'm afraid to see. I don't know. Who knows? But as they transition towards that here in 2023, presumably like late 2023, we'll get the first one of those. I would love to see less reliance on hearts. Whether or not that'll be the case, who knows? I would also like to see us be able to. I'd really like. I might talk about this every video I make, every time I stream, from here on out. We need to be able to transmute across armor classes. There's no reason for that restriction to still exist. It's nonsense. Exeem, you're looking better.
Like the Raptor's taken to you. Keep it. For your help.
Are you sure?
One less Raptor is the least of our problems.
Thanks. It'll help you cover ground faster. You'll need it.
The mine gate is operational again. Go through there. It'll take you to Amnoon. And Outlander, please pay this tragedy back for us.
I will.
Okay, so here's exactly what I was talking about, right? We see, oh, now the heart's complete. We can buy things with karma, whatever. In this case, there's not really much that... I have no interest in Mini Raptor Mount. I'm not going to buy that. It's not worth 5,000 karma to me. Granted, 5,000 karma is not a lot, but minis, I would not pay 5 copper for a mini. To me, they just have no purpose at all. Personal thing, I know there's some folks who really, really like them. Good on them. That's awesome. My daughter likes them, actually. I don't. I think they're junk. So, different strokes for different folks. Alright, so these little baby spiders are very squishy, and they clump up into groups, specifically to familiarize the player with this mount attack skill. Right, so skill 1 here, while we're mounted up. That's the whole reason that those baby spiders are there.
Time to do some real damage.
You start using those pet skills. Unfortunately, my buttonology is so bad, I have a hard time clicking on those tiny things, and using F1, F2, F3 would be a disaster for me, so... I don't know, man. Okay. Hey, you want to talk about something? What's up?
By the Sixth. Who are you? An Outlander?
Yes, from across the Sea of Sorrows. I'm here to stop Balthazar.
Yeah, me too. Oh, you're serious? Then a hi, and welcome. That would be quite an appreciated feat.
Have you seen his herald? An armored woman.
Didn't come this way.
No sign of her.
Try Amnoon. Lots of folks are going there. Take the road south and you'll hit it.
I'll check it out. See what help I can find.
Can you imagine? What nonsense? Commander, absolutely ridiculous. Can you imagine like just walking, one person just walking into Bakhmut being like, I'm here to stop the Russians? Like, can you imagine the response they get? Commander's absurd.
Try get higher ground if you can.
Higher ground? Oh, right. If you can hear me, I'll try to reach you later. Repeat, I'll try to reach you later. Hello? I'm just gonna assume you heard that.
Alright, so unfortunately we're gonna have to put up with Timey's like incessant nagging the entire expansion. It's part of her character. And it serves that role of kind of providing us like exposition and guidance through a character, as the story progresses.
What's your business in Amnoon? In case you haven't noticed, there's a mob of people trying to get in.
I was told a party from Divinity's Reach is here. I need to speak with them. Also, a village north of here was attacked. My crew is helping the survivors, but they could use Amnoon's support.
Wait here while I clear this with the council.
Captain Rahim. I can vouch for the commander. This is the leader of the guild I told you about.
There's a welcome sight.
This is the Dragon Slayer. Oh, it wasn't a solo effort, but yeah. The commander's taken down one or two.
Ritlock? What? Kaz? You're here on behalf of the Queen?
Correct. But just a moment. Captain, does the commander have permission to enter?
Yes, aye, Commander. Catch up with your friends and come see me at the Cavalier Station. We should talk.
So, of course, we show up, and guess who rolls up? Ritlock and Casimir, right? Two folks from our guild, because of course they do. At this point in the Guild Wars 2 story, like, we can live with that, right? But at some point that needs to end. And hopefully in 2023 it'll end. We can start getting new characters and branching out and exploring the world without constantly coming back to, you know, like again, like can they please start getting creative? It's painful.
To reach you before I left. Now I understand why she didn't have any luck.
It was a spur-of-the-moment decision. I had to get here and see it for myself.
I hope you consulted Marjorie about that after you... How have you two been since... Rodanovis?
Good. Fine. It's okay. Could be better, but she's still recovering, so...
Well, I'm glad you're here. We'll need all the help we can get.
I can't believe one of the gods we worship, one of the six, just gave up on us. Doesn't care. It doesn't feel right.
You have faith and hope, and I respect that. But I was in that volcano with him. He was ready to let all of Tyria turn to ash. What he did to Marjorie.
I know. I've heard it from her over and over. My mind says it too, but it's hard to walk away from a lifetime of devotion, of being raised to thank the six, say bye the six, and worship the six.
Okay, Kaz. I hope you're right. And I hope your eyes aren't opened as brutally as mine were.
Here's kind of one of the interesting challenges, one of the dynamics about making a god the adversary, because now we kind of, you know, whether we want to or not, we open up questions about faith and what it means to be a person of faith, etc., etc. And so they've done that through the character, partially through the character of Casimir. That's fine. In fact, I appreciate that. Casimir's contributions to this story are actually, you know, whether the story's good or not, you know, is a different conversation. Her contributions to it I actually quite like, because she represents that voice of somebody who had faith and does not want to let go of their faith, and what does this mean for them. Unfortunately, instead of another character, for example, Ritlock, who to some degree does do this, but instead of taking all the counter argument, investing it in another character so that the commander is somewhat ambivalent or removed from it, and you have two characters going back and forth on the issue. Instead, it is the commander themselves who represent the other voice and are, in fact, quite antagonistic towards Casimir's position of faith. So I don't like that, because the player doesn't get any input in that. The player is... So if you're like way into role play, or if you're just wanting to kind of invest in the story and play through it or whatever, how then do you reconcile that if you are actually sympathetic to like Casimir's perspective, when instead of being middle of the road, writing the player character as middle of the road, Arena has written the player character as like someone who, like, very aggressively towards Casimir, I hope your eyes aren't opened as brutally as mine were. Like, calm the hell down, Commander. You know, and right from the get-go, from the moment that Lazarus is exposed as Balthazar, the Commander's been on this, like, Balthazar is evil kick. If you really go back to the story, remember, we were not attacked at any point in time, by Balthazar when he was disguised as Lazarus. We attacked him to get him to drop the charade, and then he responded. We attacked first in regards to Balthazar. He lied first, but we attacked first. So, you know, like there's never been a point where the commander in any way whatsoever gave Balthazar any option except to be what he is.
It's good to see you. And your eyes.
All right. Try not to fall in love.
What happened to your blindfold?
A temporary measure to help me focus. But I got used to the voices in my head, so I tossed it.
Well, I'm glad you're here, Tribune. Can I still call you that?
Yep, all cleared up.
And?
The Citadel wanted to report on my faux fire mission and the magic. Who am I to deny them a great tale?
And?
It's classified, Commander. Sorry.
You've been holding out on me ever since our fight in Maguma. This is the last time I take no for an answer.
Now I wish I had my blindfold to dab your tears. We gonna kill a god or what?
I still don't think we're ever going to get an answer on that. But apparently an answer's provided. Apparently it's out there. Black Citadel has it. Char leadership, leaders of the legions, know what happened to him in the Mists. We don't. And presumably never will. Very disappointing. Would it turn out to be, like, good? Probably not. Probably not. Probably be a poorly told story, over dramatic. But it'd be better than what we have right now, which is nothing. All right, so we are now in the Crystal Desert. So before we... Do we want to run a race? Starts in 3 seconds. All right, sure. Let's run this race real quick, which I don't think I've ever done on this account, so you might get like a minor achievement or something while we do it. But it's going to give us a chance to look around the desert, which I would like. Oh, I shouldn't have jumped when I jumped because I don't think we have enough. Oh, we did.
Thanks to you.
It's going to give us a chance to look around the desert here and feel how it's bigger and more open and has a very different feel than Heart of Thorns. It is, when I say I don't, that there are things I don't necessarily like about Path of Fire, that's not to include, like, the design of the maps or, whether, it's not an indictment on their artistic capability. I think, once again, I've said it so many times that I think they're great artists and poor storytellers, and I think Path of Fire shows us that as well. This is beautiful. Look at that skybox. Look at the environment around us. Really, really impressive. I think they've done a very good job here. And it does give the feel that they wanted to give, in my opinion. And now we just got to get through the rest of the race because I done started it. Looks like I'm well on my way to taking third. Home slice there pulled out ahead of me while I was running my mouth. Interesting, there's actually these days, because this has been around for so long, these days it's surprising to actually see people like participating in the race and trying to win and stuff. Like, that's actually a great surprise to me. Maybe they're on alt accounts as well. When this stuff was first released, man, like, these races, like, people got really into this. Like, it was a big deal. Everyone wanted to win. These days, it's not uncommon for you to be the only person in the race, and so you're kind of handed first place on a platter. Of course, with the increase in mounts, when most people were running this race the first time, Raptor's all they had. These days, you might see someone think that, get up there. Roller Beetle's the way to go, which wouldn't be on this one. This one has too many jumps and stuff. Or, Skyscale, which Skyscale is actually kind of slow. But, folks try different things. Generally, the races are kind of tuned for one particular mount. If you run that mount, your chances are probably best. Okay. So, now that we're in the Crystal Desert, let's talk to Captain Rahim, who's like the local... we got mail as well. Tassa and Axim. Oh, yeah, so the folks who gave us the Raptor, except we already had a Raptor. Thanks for your help at the farm. We thought we thought you might be able to make use of these gloves. They belong to our grandmother, but they've been gathering dust lately, and it's a shame. Well, that's nice of you. And then they kind of introduce also some additional, like, achievement type stuff. with the raptor. We could actually go back there and like gather some fireflies and stuff. Don't care that much, but we'll take the 1,000 Carmen there, and then the first time you go through this, so each time you grab one of these, you unlock all 3 skins. So once you've played through the story on one character, you've actually unlocked 18 skins, which is kind of cool. But this would not be an incentive to play through the story, with another character a second time, because there's no need. Like, we've unlocked all these now. Thus, we're going to choose the medium one, because when we salvage it, ideally we'll get some leather. Alright, what do we got here? Well, we'll salvage that at least. Ugh. Alright. Let's talk to Raheem. Raheem, essentially the police chief. What's up?
I get all kinds of people in here, and the stories they tell to get inside. Not that I blame them, but the city can only take so many before bursting. So, I take it you're here for Balthazar.
I am. I'm looking for a place to start. Any information you have would be helpful.
Well, your guildmates are being hosted by the chief counselor at the Civic Center. She can fill you in about the state of the city and the surrounding area. And she might know something about Balthazar, too.
Sounds good. Anything from the ground level? Someone who's dealt with him or his army firsthand?
My deputy Ayub is at the camp run by Comir's priesthood. The refugees there may be of help. And then there's... How do you feel about getting a little lower than ground level to find what you want? I have a deputy assigned to the local smugglers, the Hamasine. Name a case. Not so sure he's mine anymore. But you might seek him out, if you don't mind walking on that side of the line, of course.
I think I can stomach it.
You'll find them at the casino. Tread lightly.
Okay, so that's the so this is a system that was introduced with Pathfire. I thought I was going to get really excited about it. Turns out I didn't. Some people did. We're not actually looking at it either. That bounty board's empty. Here's a couple bounty boards that bounty's on. And it is actually a good system. I don't know why I don't get into this. But for some reason, I don't. So there are champions and there are legendaries. I think the legendaries are on this board. Looks like they're both. Probably this tag is doing them, to be honest. You basically, you come to the bounty board, you claim the bounty, you go find it, you kill it, and there's special rewards for that. That's great. It's a good concept. It's something that is, that everything about it's good. I don't know why I kind of haven't embraced it. It's obviously that something to do with my personal play style or my personal preferences in terms of how I play, because everything about that should be like a good idea. I actually need to go around. So this is going to give us something really...
Maybe with all these Outlanders arriving, the council won't need to beg Joko to defend us.
What are you talking about? Our council's kept the city free all these years. Why would they betray us now? You've been listening to too much of Zalambur's nonsense. Any good he manages to do is just for public relations. We have to trust in Iman and our council.
Your family and friends lost your homes to the sandstorm, and she's yet to do anything for any of you.
Our situation can wait. There are others in greater need right now.
Okay. Like I was saying, this is going to give us something really cool. I really like what they did here. Quite a bit, in fact. See, Ritlock and Casimir are here when we get there.
Your guildmates were just regaling us with tales of your adventures. You honor us. It's not every day a dragon slayer walks through our door.
The counselor must have misunderstood my part of the story, where she wouldn't be bending over backward to inflate your ego.
Fair, fair.
Well, thank you for the compliment. But this time, I'm not after a dragon. I'm after Balthazar. Do you have any information on his whereabouts?
The god himself? We only know he's constantly on the move, chasing who knows what. And that Amnoon is essentially surrounded by his troops, which maybe you have some insight into. We're at a bit of an impasse. Joko's government sent representatives of the Morden Crescent to Amnoon to offer military support against the Forged. The Morden Crescent may no longer be the honorable Sunspears they once were, but they would make powerful allies. And in a time like this, we need all the help we can get.
You people have history books? Open any one of them and it'll tell you short-term gains bring long-term trouble.
The Chief Counselor has the right idea. We should be grateful the Morden Crescent are even considering helping us. We should fly Joko's standard and make it clear we welcome his kingdom's support.
We've resisted Joko for years. I'm not about to let him waltz in. And without a fight? Never. It's nonsense. Our only option is to align ourselves with Cormyr's priesthood and the remaining Sunspears.
Allying with either side will only lead to future conflict. Amnoon has been independent and should remain independent. And round it goes. I'd welcome any counsel you might have, Commander.
Alright, so now we get this thing again that pops up from time to time in an RPG and definitely pops up from time to time in Guild Wars 2. Random stranger walks through the door and person asks them to make an important decision on their behalf. Like, why is Counselor Amon here? Like, why does she care what the commander thinks about this? Never mind allowing the commander to make the decision. Absolutely crazy. So we're going to hear from 3 different people here. We got Counselor Amen, who we already heard from once in terms of Joko. And then Casimir and Ritlock. In order to help us make this decision. Now, we haven't really talked about Joko yet. And we haven't encountered Joko in the story at any point whatsoever. So a quick rundown on Joko. I guess the studio felt like, enough players who, from Guild Wars 1, who played the first game would be able to fill in the players who didn't know anything about Joko. So Joko is like this ancient lich that refuses to die. By far predates the first game in terms of the chronology of Tyria. We do briefly interact with him in the first game, and he actually plays a fairly prominent role in the first game, but we don't actually interact with him that much. People tend to remember it as being a lot more interaction than it was, but it's fairly limited. It's during the Nightfall kind of expansion, DLC sort of thing. So he's a malicious figure. He should be seen as like an adversary. And what we will, and after the events of Nightfall in the first game, at some point further down the road, Joko has taken control of a vast majority of the desert, and as a result, that's part of the reason that this desert gets cut off from like these parts of Tyria, is Joko's significant control over the region. So he is a bad guy. You could make the argument that, bad guy or not, he's powerful, and thus we can use him to fight Balthazar, which is the argument that's going to be made over here. Let's go ahead and hear that, in fact.
It's easy for your Char friend to dismiss the threat we face. Joko is nobody's first choice, but we can't afford to turn down the Archon's offer. The Mordant Crescent are the only ones with the strength to ensure our survival.
The Sunspear's numbers are weakened, but their involvement could still be a beacon of hope. Their order has sacrificed everything to defy Joko and the Mordant Crescent. They'll protect us from the Forged.
Amnoon must remain independent. Our doors have always been open. It's how we survived this long. The moment we pick a side, we're asking for trouble from the others.
And you, Counselor. You're awfully quiet over there.
There are no good options here. All of these plans are suicidal. I can't endorse any of them.
That's a good politician right there. Like I'm with Counselor Saul on this. Let's hear from Ritlock.
These people should just look out for themselves. The minute these yapping windbags let a creature like Joko into this city, they give up any hope of freedom. He might be the biggest gun around here, but what happens after the Forged are defeated? Every decision you make has a cost. In this case, all the people have to do is serve Joko forever after they die. What a deal.
Yes, so Ritlock raises a very valid point. Casimir?
Air Marshal Cormier was a local hero, even before she fought a fallen god and took his power. Her sun spears have always encouraged these people to keep fighting, even when darkness is closing in. They may be a small group now, but an alliance with the sun spears would be the light in the dark this city needs.
Okay, so we've kind of heard from everyone on making this decision. There's one more thing to consider. If you were in this position for the first time and you're like, oh, is there any impact to me making this choice? There is an impact to you making this choice. It's mostly a story impact, but let's see here. Path of Fire. Is it Crystal Oasis? Where? No. Ooh, is it Story Journal? I wonder if we can... Path of Fire Act 1. Yeah, we did that. So what I'm looking for is to see whether or not... Where is it? Somewhere there should be an achievement associated with who we chose in the first playthrough. So the reason I want to mention this is ultimately it does benefit you if you play through the story 3 times and choose each one of the choices with one of those 3 playthroughs. There's an achievement associated with like a back piece, and it's helpful if you do that. But for some reason, oh man, look at all those mastery points I could still get. But for some reason I can't find it now. Don't remember where it is. So we're going to move on without it. Don't remember what I chose on my first character. We'll just make the decision that makes the most sense to me. And I'm with Ritlock on this, right? So allying with Joko would be a catastrophically bad decision, right? That should be clear. Yet in the real world, we see that all the time, right? When you talk about like geopolitical stuff, ask Bashar al-Assad about it, right? Ask him how things are going in Syria right now. When he chose Russia as his benefactor to fight ISIS, I'm sure he's really happy with that decision. Good choice. As same decision many countries have made, and now they find themselves suffering from that choice, and this should. Bad decision making has consequences, and that is essentially what Counselor Amon here is proposing. However, that doesn't mean that we should choose the Sun Spears either. I'm in agreement with what was it, Jamuri over here, who said, allying ourselves with anybody's liability. Let's keep Amnoon independent and neutral.
Input, Commander. I tend to agree.
Good. Glad we're on the same page.
Our own flag. Amnoon will face the Forged as a free city, with gates open to all.
A council actually making a practical and timely decision? Call the town crier. This has to be a first.
At least the Sun Spears are still welcome.
King Joko will make sure we regret this decision. You just killed us all.
May Cormier forgive us.
Thank you, Chief Counselor.
Everyone's got opinions, right?
A moment, Commander?
All right. So Casimir's a little unhappy with us. She would be a lot more unhappy with us if we had chosen Joko. But
these people are desperate, caught up in a war they don't understand. Balthazar came to the desert for Krakatorrik, not for them. But why? Why is he doing it? This is why I wanted you to pick the Sun Spears, to represent Cormier. She might guide us to answers or intervene in Balthazar's actions, especially if his goal is noble, but his path is not.
Your hope is inspiring.
Thanks. Have you heard from Tiny?
I couldn't get a clear signal. Guess I should try again. I have some big news to share. There must be some place that's clear of interference. I'll look once I've finished gathering information.
All right. So we've wrapped it up here with the council. That's our... So, what did that actually give us in terms of, like, gameplay, in terms of the story? It really just gives us more background, more understanding of what's taking place around us, right? What is going on here in
the council is really
in the Crystal Desert?
For the city watch.
Sounds like they intend to reject Joker's alliance. That, or they intend to crack down on Zalambor. Everything those politicians do is two-faced.
What, and Zalambor isn't? We all know what his real business
What do you want?
Admit it, the
You
council
case?
stood their ground.
Maybe. Who's asking?
Captain Rahim sent me. He's under the impression that you have access to Homicine's network.
Yeah? He's wrong. So beat it.
Listen carefully, friend. I'm here to kill the god of war. Don't think I won't swat any flies that get in my way.
Ridiculous.
Well, if that's your angle, then you need Zalambor. He runs things. He is the Homicine's network. He's usually in his office in the casino. But he's a very busy man.
I'm sure he'll spare a few moments for me.
So if we just remove the commander's hubris, that's actually like interesting dialogue. It's actually pretty good dialogue. If we just remove the commander being a clown. Like, why try to do something good and then, like, just take a huge dump all over it? Mind-blowing, honestly. Alrighty. This right here, by the way, is like a subject of some contention these days in the community as far as whether or not this is like... So this is... I've never actually done this. Sandstorm, what's that, right? So we're in a casino. This is a casino. They actually put a game in where you can gamble. It's latest rage. Offer up coins and ecto for a Sandstorm hand. Open it and see what you've won. They're rare prizes. Collectors often pay well for the cards, etc., etc. So there is an achievement for like doing it a certain number of times or whatever. Some people have won quite a lot off of it. Other people have lost quite a lot. Presumably, I think it's safe to say, just like any real casino, it is tuned to work as a gold sink, and ultimately people are going to lose more than they get. Like I said, I've never done it. I'm not going to start today either. There's no reason. I need my ecto. I need my gold. I've never... And there was another similar type thing that they had introduced earlier before this point. Ecto gambling with some script. Also, exact same issue. I'm not of the believer that they have an ethical obligation to remove it from the game. I also don't think that it's particularly desirable to have it in the game. If I were king of ArenaNet, there'd be no place for this in the game. Because it's unnecessary. If you need a gold sync, like research notes are a fantastic gold sync, and I think some folks don't really appreciate that. We're a long ways away from seeing research notes at this point in our playthrough, but like those are a great gold sync. There are a lot of other gold syncs. The Mystic Forge itself is a gold sync. This probably wasn't necessary, but I also don't think it's like the most egregious thing a gaming studio's done ever. People are ultimately responsible for their own behavior.
I'll get you access to a vast kingdom.
You must be Zalambor.
I am. My friends, let's adjourn for now. In the meantime, my casino is yours. Enjoy the Grand Sahil's many luxuries.
Okay, this is bugged. That's why it looks like he's talking to nobody. There was like a consortium representative and some other representative. I think a Black Lion Trading Company representative standing there talking to him.
Why I'm here.
Oh, I know why you're here, Commander. What I don't know is what it's got to do with me. Elonian wine?
I'll pass.
You sure? It's not poisoned or anything.
I'm offended, Zalambor. You've never once offered me wine.
Ah, I present to you Archon Iberi of the Morden Crescent. Archon? The commanders come to us all the way from Lion's Arch.
Morden Crescent. One of Palawa Joko's undead.
I'll be honored with awakening soon enough. But today I still have a pulse, Outlander. As I'm sure you're aware, Chief Counselor Iman invited me here to discuss military aid for Amnoon. And just as I arrive, I hear the Council has decided against the Alliance. It's not too late, Zalambor. Reverse this situation before it gets any more out of hand.
Me? I wasn't even there when they made this decision.
That's beside the point.
Oh no.
What are you...
lapdog counselor will have a sudden change of heart. Oh, please. He will argue for this alliance and compel his colleagues to do the same. He will further King Joko's ambitions for the area. Do you understand? You've built a marvelous casino, Zalambur. My troops have been enjoying it. And now, they will enjoy razing it to the ground. Awaken!
Alright, so Archon of Barrow here is Mordant Crescent. The Mordant Crescent are Sun Spears, who were the heroes. Oh my gosh.
Ideas, but protecting the living from an undead army isn't one of them.
Beat your chest all you like. Zalambur,
So the Mordant Crescent Sun Spears in the first game during that same Nightfall expansion that I was talking about earlier. They are like, the heroes.
I don't have enough energy.
And thus at this point, when you're talking about Guild Wars 2, are like heroes of old, right? Heroes of legend. We find that most of them are now gone at this point, but a few remain. And that's... And then those that were basically like turncoats are the Mordant Crescent. They are Sun Spears who have turned to Joko's side. And, for whatever... I'm sure they had their reasons or whatever, but ultimately we view that as traitors, right? When you encounter that, try not to actually attack a burrow directly, because you're not going to do anything to, and it just complicates it.
Apologies for the unpleasantness, Commander. This is why I insist on appointments.
Happy to help. Mainly because now you owe me.
The fact that I'm still able to walk is a point in your favor for sure. And this time of war does make for strange bedfellows. Cormier knows I've had worse.
I'm only after Balthazar, you understand? I can't be dragged down by whatever else you've got going on.
My organization makes it possible for me to do many things. Fund public works, donate to our refugee guests, keep candle after candle burning at Cormier's temples. I never wanted to cross the Mordant Crescent, but I suppose it was inevitable. I'm grateful you were here for the Archon's overture, so I'll keep an ear to the ground on your behalf.
Yep, appreciate it, buddy. So, now we've talked to the council, and we've also got kind of this word from the underground, right? Which Zalambur represents as kind of this, like, organized crime type figure. So we got one thing left, which was to get, like, word from on the ground, I believe was the term we used. In other words, like, folks who are actually there and has seen what Balthazar's been doing firsthand. So we're going to talk to some refugees about that. Unfortunately, this is going to end up being like one of those mandatory heart situations.
Throw off that Cormier is blind to his
Deputy, Captain Rahim pointed me in your direction. Would you mind if I talk to a few of the refugees about Balthazar?
You're welcome to try. Not a lot of folks are in a talking mood. This camp's gonna be no better than the places they fled if we can't get more aid out here soon.
I'll see what I can do. Maybe people will be more inclined to talk when they feel safer.
We certainly wouldn't say no to some help. Priestess Karima can tell you what we need most. Good fortune to you.
Alright, so there are a couple different ways of doing this. There are a number of things around here we can do. These little symbols over folks' heads. See, this person's got that water symbol over their head. Come over here, grab some water. Bring it to them, and then next one in line. Also water? Y'all are a thirsty bunch.
You're very kind.
Presumably this person's going to ask for something else. Yeah, food. Okay, so you see we're advancing the heart pretty expeditiously this way. This is probably... Oh, are we out of food? Oh, no. It's probably the best way to take care of the heart. And then while you're running around doing that stuff, because there are more folks kind of like all around here and stuff, And some of these tents, there's like randomly tents around that have supplies in them. Not that one though. And we can grab those supplies and do more of the same here to these folks who are kind of dispersed about. That's probably the easy way. The other way to do it though, where did the kid who needed food go? There he is. Give him the food.
Thank you.
Is to actually kill Forged, like out here, these guys. There is an event that pops up from time to time. And in fact, I think... Yeah, I think this guy actually comes up and joins in the event when the event is happening. And of course, we can get these farmers back up. Those things will also help you advance the heart. So if you're more of the type to want to finish your hearts through combat, then you do have that option. If you prefer like the pacifist approach, because some folks do like that in RPGs, they try and do like the various pacifist things. Or if you just simply want what is actually probably the most expeditious method, that would be to come back up here and help the refugees. So one of the interesting things that we didn't have in Heart of Thorns, but we do have in Pathfire, and then we'll also see in End of Dragons, is NPCs who introduce us to elite specs. And that's actually what this guy is. You see he's got like this thing on his arm, and he specifically got like the shoulder pieces, which we would associate with... You'll get those shoulder pieces when you, like level up a what's it, Holomancer or whatever they're called. What are they even called? I've forgotten now. Let's see here. Collections, specialization collection. Oh my gosh. No, not Weaver. No, not Bladeshorn. Hollowsmith. There it is. Okay. So this guy is the introductory guy for Hollow. I always want to call them Holomancers. I feel like that's what they should have been called. But it's not what they're called. Hollowsmiths. So the Photon Forge, that's the thing on his arm, right? Nice, isn't it? You have blah, blah, blah. Ever met a Hollowsmith before? A what? Hollowsmith. Blah, 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 blah. Okay, we're not going to read all that. You're free to do so yourself. But that was a new thing with Path of Fire that they had not previously done. And it was a cool touch. And I don't want to say it was a reaction to something the community was asking for. I'm not sure the community was like specifically asking for it. But the community did speculate a lot about NPCs as elite specs. Oh, there's the event I was talking about. It's happening right now. As a result of looking at like Bram during season 3 and asking, oh, is he a dragon hunter now? Looking at Marjorie during season 2 when she gets the great sword and then Belinda's soul's like trapped in it, and saying, oh, is Belinda a reaper? So as a result of those questions, I think it kind of opened the door for Rena to go, hey, yeah, NPCs who kind of introduce the elite spec would be a good idea, and gave birth to...
No.
What? Usually she's like talking to people. Where are the people? I feel like I'm having NPCs not generate for some reason. I almost want to log, but I'm in the middle of like doing stuff here. Another one of the things we can do to advance the heart here is we can, whoop that Zaishin, and also these tents where you see like things like happening in them. Killing the enemies inside there also helps the refugee camp. There we go. All right, so now that we've finished the heart, now we can actually talk to the refugees, right? Because they feel better about us and so forth.
Excuse me. Can you tell me what happened to you?
We left a group hiding from forged attacks in Destiny's Gorge after walking out of the Elon Riverlands to the south. We thought we were in the clear, but we were followed. I had a chance to run. I took it. I still hear the screams. I ran when it started, and... Oh, Dwayne, forgive me. I'm a coward. I should have died with them.
No, you shouldn't have. And take heart. Balthazar will pay for this.
Okay. So kind of really interesting dialogue there. In terms of this guy feeling guilt because he took an opportunity to escape and did not die with other folks. It's actually a thing that like some Vietnam prisoners of war dealt with. World War II as well, when you look at like the Bataan Death March, where a lot of folks died, and those that were actually able to escape. Some were able to escape during the march because there was an incredible number of folks who were marched. There were opportunities for escape. And they felt some guilt about leaving their comrades behind. So interesting to see that out of this guy. I don't think that was ArenaNet like trying to. I don't think what I just relayed had anything to do with ArenaNet writing that in at all. It is a natural psychological reaction, so I think it made sense to include that there. But it is dialogue that I find interesting.
What happened to you out in the desert?
We very nearly didn't make it out alive. We escaped the salt flats right before a forged invasion. Balthazar has turned the whole desert upside down and... I'm sorry. I don't want to talk about it anymore.
Alright. We'll actually get to see the forged invasion of the salt flats later. Not that far later. Might be another play session or two before we get to them.
What happened to you out in the desert?
We were coming down from the highlands when we ran into a branded ambush. No one would have survived if Blast hadn't flown in and saved us.
Blast?
You know, the dragon, Glint's offspring.
Don't you mean Gleam?
Gleam was the name the bards gave him, but his true name is Blast. He's a savior with wings. We owe him our lives.
That's the first scion, Oreen's brother. He's a good dragon?
He carries on his mother's work. Cormyr praise him.
Where can I find him?
No one knows where he roosts. He just shows up to contest the branded.
So Oreen has a brother. That's great news. I hope. Wait until Timey hears about this.
Indeed. So that is actually very significant in the story, right? This is the first we hear about that. So remember, Glenn, Oreen's mom, the one who laid the egg that Oreen was born from. Oreen came from Glenn's last egg. Lo and behold, it turns out that there was another scion of Glint, and that's Vlost. And that's going to factor heavily into our story. But here, at this point in the story, it's offering the commander hope that there may be more to assist us in this fight.
Me. Can you tell me what happened to you?
We fled north to escape Balthazar's Forged, but they've been marching the same way lately, up into the highlands. At this rate, we'll run out of places to retreat to in no time flat.
Looks like I'm done here. Now to see if I can reach Timey.
Indeed.
She said higher ground.
Alright, so the map actually shows us a couple spots where we can go to chat with Timey. I will try to remember to talk to Timey as often as possible. There's actually an achievement for talking to Timey at every possible opportunity. But it feels so laborious to constantly try to make contact with Timey when it's largely unnecessary. So I'm not even sure on my main account I ever completed that achievement because it's a pain in the ass. But we'll try to remember to holler at Timey from time to time on this playthrough and see if we can work towards that. We may have already missed our first opportunity. I'm not sure.
Timey, do you read? Come in. Ugh, I must not be getting a signal.
I'm here, Commander. I read you. Glad you made it to the Crystal Desert in one piece. You are in one piece, right?
So far.
Did you duke it out with the fire guy yet? What's happening? Update now!
Balthazar's got the desert in chaos. I'm trying to find the shortest route to him to... Well, you know. But I think the biggest news I've heard is a story about a dragon. Vlast. Supposedly he's another scion of Glint. Oreen's brother.
What? Tell me all about him! What's his height, wingspan, powers? Did he eat anybody in front of you?
I haven't met him yet, but I'll let you know. How are things in Radanovis?
It's hard to change people's minds with conjecture, so I'm trying to prove that killing dragons isn't ideal. I'm also trying to get all the Dragon Lab info into Scruffy so I can become more mobile. It's a madhouse in the lab now. They're giving tours. Tours! Ugh. Speaking of which, here comes one now. Check back in when you get a chance.
All right, so we got in touch with Timey. That's good. We get a little update there. nothing significant, but kind of just inching the story along. So, Zollenberg, you earned my gratitude by helping thwart a hostile takeover, that being when Arcana Barrow was in there, right? In return, I'd come by some information I know will be valuable to you. I've summoned your guildmates to meet you in my casino so that you can all hear what I've learned. Okay. Cool, cool. We're going to take the long way. I don't think I have this hero point yet. Maybe we'll try and grab it real quick. This one's generally not too bad if you pay attention to what you're doing. One of the interesting things about Heart of Thorns, right? So, or I mean Pathfire. Heart of Thorns had very difficult... Oh, wait, we do have that one. Well, I'm not going to waste my time. Had very difficult, oftentimes, hero points. Many of them required, like, group effort, stuff like that. Especially pre-nerf. So Heart of Thorns, they tried to tune that down quite a bit. And then I really think with End of Dragons is where they really hit exactly where they wanted to be on difficulty when it comes to, at least in my opinion, when it comes to hero points and making it enough of a challenge to make it worth it that you get those 10 hero points, but not frustratingly so for low ceiling players, so to speak, which I consider myself in that category. I found that
excuse me, sir.
hero. Oh, we actually have an Awakened here. We've heard a bit about that.
But may I ask a few questions first?
Selling Palawa Joko statues.
Granting you awareness?
And posters. We'll get plenty more Awakens, so no need to dwell on that. Anything new, Deputy Case? What's up, buddy?
Back, Outlander.
Oh, we're just gonna be a jerk. Okay. Poor Case. He had a rough life. We'll learn more about that quite a bit later.
You should have seen Iman's face when we said we were leaving because we were invited to the casino by its owner.
Anyone who gets that reaction out of a stuffed shirt almost made me think I might like this Zollenboer guy.
I heard he donates generously to Cormier's priesthood. They fell over themselves to bless his name.
Maybe Amnoon should put him in charge. I'm surprised that council's not debating the merits of pyramids versus cubes.
You might want to meet him before endorsing him for political office.
I'm in favor of pyramids versus cubes, by the way.
Canuck, what are you doing here?
Oh, Canuck.
Enjoying your time off?
Freedom is a sweet drink, Commander. I've been busy quenching my thirst.
You should join us. We were just about to meet with...
Zollenboer. I already know a thing or two about this place. A Silvari gambler who's up 500 gold is just my cover, I promise you.
Now that he's free, it's okay if I kill him, right?
Gentlemen, let's keep it civil. How about it, Canuck?
While my freedom's been gratifying, it's also a little boring. This is much more interesting. Besides, I may have made a wager that the slayer of elder dragons can take down a god, and I intend to collect.
What are the odds?
Let's not jinx it, Commander.
I mean, surely the bet would not still pay out if he participates, right? Right? I don't know. Genuinely don't. Okay. Zollenberg, what's up, buddy?
Welcome back, Commander. It's an honor to have the members of Dragon's Watch in my humble establishment. Please, follow me. The Grand Sahil is already back to running at full capacity, in no small part due to your earlier intervention. We have all the finest games and entertainment the Crystal Desert has to offer. Do you enjoy games of chance?
When the odds are in our favor.
Ooh, slick answer.
I reached out across my network for information about Balthazar, and I think I know what he's after.
Kralkatoric.
You're half right. He's currently hunting down a crystal dragon, but that dragon is Blast.
I wonder why he'd suddenly change targets.
Who among us can understand the will of a god? I do know his forged army has encampments all over the Crystal Desert. He stops at these camps to rally his troops while he's on the dragon's trail.
So we might be able to intercept him at one of the forged camps. You've come through, Zollenboer. I actually don't regret keeping you alive.
The feeling is mutual, Commander. I'll take my leave now. Enjoy your time here, please. Stay away from the high-stakes roulette. It's rigged.
I knew it.
Ah, poor Canuck. All right, what do you guys think? Let's Canuck, what do you think?
So, who's up for a trip?
Doesn't
to
matter
one
who
of
you talk
these
to.
camps?
Sounds good to me. Let's shut him down before he's responsible for anyone else's death.
We don't want to rush in blindly. And if I'm going to be joining you again, I may as well make myself useful. I'll scout the main camp, see what I see, and report back.
The main camp? On your own? Seems risky.
Nah, not alone. I'll go with him.
Not the response I expected.
Hey, vacations have a way of dulling a blade, so to speak. Can't let you fumble around unsupervised.
That's more like it.
All right. Kaz and I will check out the smaller outposts.
Actually, I'll leave it to you if you don't mind. I have some matters to attend to. There's a temple of Cormir near one of the forged camps. You can find me there when you're done.
All right. So I feel like this is actually going to represent like a pretty good stopping point for us in terms of our first like foray into Pathfire. Reason being, because now we have more or less gathered an adequate amount of information on what's going on in the desert. And you can see our next step is to begin to specifically direct our attention against Balthazar and make an effort to plot against him. We also appear to have more information, thanks to Zollenbur, about what Balthazar is attempting to do. We heard about Vlast. Now we know that Balthazar may in fact be targeting Vlast. Is that significant? We will find out. Let's see if there's another contact for Timey or not.
Do you read me?
Dragon Lab here. You've got questions? Timey's got answers. How are things where you are? What's the latest news from the desert?
Balthazar's hunting Vlast, and his armies are devastating the region in the process.
Wait, I'm confused. Why is he suddenly interested in a non-Elder Dragon?
I'm not sure. I was hoping the Exalted might know something.
I'll ask, but it'll have to wait till Aurene takes her nap. According to Kate, when Aurene's awake, she's all they talk about. I guess that's what 100% devotion to your reason for living looks like. It's impressive. And kind of creepy.
All right. Find out what you can. I'll check in again soon. Commander out.
Timey out.
Why did they both out? It's not how it works. Whoever initiates the call is the one who outs. I shouldn't have to explain this. Absolute nonsense. Alright. Let's find a stopping point there. So, we spoke to Timey again. We're going to continue to try and do that at intervals to work towards our little achievement, and also make sure we're getting all of our little story prompts and so forth from our non-reliable narrator Timey there. And look, we got like a little area here where we can like chill. Where are those pina coladas? Alright. So we'll try not to interrupt these two. I don't know, if they start getting weird, we might go elsewhere. But otherwise, we will hang out right here, close up shop, and pick it up again tomorrow. So, we have entered the desert, and we now know what's going on. We're ready to target Balthazar. He appears to be targeting Vlast. Canuck and Ritlock are out there doing some recon. And when we come back, we are going to engage in some recon of our own. Then come back together, compare notes, and begin the pursuit of Balthazar. So that is where we will pick it up tomorrow. Thank you for joining me today, and I hope you have a good one. Later.